Well, new tonight, Congressman John Rutherford says he will object to Electoral College results showing Joe Biden is the next president of the United States. Rutherford tweeted that he would join a handful of other Republicans on January 6th, backing President Trump's refusal to concede the November election. Now, that group maintains Electoral College results, and states where results are contested should not be certified. There is no evidence of any widespread or systemic election fraud in any state. And Rutherford did acknowledge that the effort was unlikely to succeed in derailing the election.